Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. When we look out at those massive vessels crossing our oceans, it is so easy to just marvel at the sheer engineering of it all. But behind all that physical steel lies a totally invisible, almost unbreakable net. Today, we're going to dive right into the surprisingly uplifting legal frameworks, specifically the statutory obligations for seaworthiness and security management that literally keep our oceans safe.
So what actually guarantees a safe voyage? Let's look past the heavy machinery for a second and discover this invisible net of rules that ensures every single journey is secure. We often kind of assume a ship is safe simply because it floats, right? But the reality is so much more complex and honestly a lot more reassuring. There's this entire architecture of law working in the background, designed with one incredibly bright, clear purpose: bringing every seafarer and passenger home safely.
To make this easy to visualize, we're going to break down this massive legal framework into three highly structured parts. First, the promise of seaworthiness. Second, managing safety and security. And third, setting the rules. All right, let's jump right into part one, the promise of seaworthiness.
Now, in the maritime world, seaworthiness is definitely not just a nice-to-have. It is an absolute, non-negotiable legal obligation. You can't just cross your fingers and hope a ship is ready for the ocean. You are obligated to use all reasonable means to ensure that vessel is fully prepared for its exact, specific voyage. Because think about it. A quick trip across a calm bay requires entirely different preparation than a month navigating the roaring Pacific, and the law actively recognizes that distinction. Legally speaking, this translates into an unbreakable promise, meaning no tricky fine print can ever excuse a shipowner, master, or agent from their primary duty to keep the crew safe. In every single contract of service between the vessel owner and the crew, whether it's explicitly written down or just implied, there's this overarching obligation for safety, and it applies regardless of any other agreement to the contrary. Basically, you cannot sign away your right to a safe ship. The law simply won't let you. It's a wonderfully protective, bright-line rule.
And if we map out the timeline here, you'll see safety isn't just a one-and-done checkbox. It is a continuous loop. It starts right at the docks during the loading phase, continues through the preparation and sending to sea, and strictly demands that the ship owner and master maintain that seaworthy state during the entire voyage. The responsibility literally never pauses.
But how is that actually enforced? Well, to back up that promise, the central government operates on this ultimate trust but verify system. They have the clear authority to send out official surveyors to physically inspect the hull, the life-saving equipment, the massive engines, the whole shebang. This makes sure that the unbreakable promise we just talked about isn't just empty words on a page. It's actively verified out in the real world with flashlights, clipboards, and strict physical inspections. That perfectly sets up our next step. Let's move to Section 2, Managing Safety and Security.
So seaworthiness gets the ship on the water. But for daily operations, we see a really clear partnership. Under the law, vessels and port facilities must strictly comply with all prescribed safety requirements on the front lines. Meanwhile, the central government acts as this supportive overseer, actively arranging audits to ensure that compliance is actually happening on the ground. It takes both sides working completely in sync to keep the maritime world turning smoothly.
This creates what is essentially a dynamic, living security system. It's a proactive safety net, where the government doesn't just sit back and watch. They actively set adaptable levels of security based on whatever is happening globally at that exact moment. Weather shifts, global situations change, and the system adapts instantly. And crucially, they broadcast it. They provide this vital intelligence to all the port facilities and all the vessels entering those ports. It is a brilliant, active communication network totally dedicated to keeping people safe.
Which brings us to our third and final section, setting the rules.
You might be wondering by now, who actually writes all these overarching rules that make this massive system function? Well, Section 130 grants the central government the ultimate authority to draft the master rulebook. They hold the direct power to make and enforce the rules that carry out all these safety provisions.
And at a glance, you can see the scope of this power is absolutely vast. They're mandating compliance with massive international treaties to ensure a global safety language. They're dictating specific safety certificates, because obviously a tiny fishing boat needs way different protocols than a massive oil tanker. They establish the exact procedures for incident reporting. They mandate all specific distress radios, and they enforce strict stability approvals. That means making absolutely sure a passenger ferry carrying families is perfectly balanced in the water. Literally nothing is left to chance.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really hope you have a newfound appreciation for these proactive, continuous, and highly structured systems. They are working around the clock to ensure our oceans remain safe. Next time you're standing on the shore, watching a massive vessel disappear over the horizon, ask yourself, are you just seeing a steel ship, or are you witnessing the absolute triumph of an invisible, unbreakable legal framework guaranteeing its safe return? Thank you so much for exploring this with me today. Stay curious and keep looking for the invisible safety nets running our world.